Okay, today I'm putting some foundation into frames. Now these are used frames, but if you have new frames, there's only a slight deviation from what I'm doing, and I'll show you that. This is a medium super, 8 frames. When you have all your foundation in your frames and you put them into your super, you want to push them together as tightly as they'll go. Don't leave space between them. The frames are built to where they'll create the perfect amount of space. Also, put as many in there as are supposed to be in there. Don't put 7 frames in an 8 frame, 9 frames in a 10 frame. The specs are there for a reason. So, medium frames and a medium super. It sounds common sense, but you know, you might think, I have a couple of shallows and they'll fit in there, but it's going to cause you problems. So these particular ones are wedge top, divided bottom, and they're the type that are necessary for the crimp wax foundation. Plastic foundation requires a different kind of frame. I prefer to use the wax. The bees take to it better. They don't last as long, but they're just a little less hassle. And these are small cell wax foundation. Even if you have medium cell bees, you can use the small cell. So they come with the paper between them, and I like to save the paper because it makes a good igniter for the smoker. So I'll put that aside for now. The crimp wax crimp wire has a wire through it with an edge that sticks out. Don't handle your wax when it's below 50 degrees or so. If you get them in the winter, you know, wait till they're indoors, they can warm up before you even take them out of the box, because they're very delicate and they can crumble. Now, I'm going to show you the difference between a brand new one and this one that's been used. Is a brand new one, there would be a slight gap, but the wood would be connected. Now, I've already popped this off because I've used it before. So if you have a brand new one and it's a wedge top, you'll take your hive tool and insert it into the gap and pop it out. Then when you put it back on and nail it in, you're going to flip it over. So this would have been the side against it, and it gets a little bit jagged where this side is completely flat. So that's what I'm going to use. So inserting your wax into your frame, this is the top where I just pulled the wood off, and this is the bottom. I'm going to take my crimp wax and insert it in the bottom, which is upright right now, first. And there's a little divot that should fit into. And the wire on the top that's facing outwards, once this is inserted, will lay against the wood on the bottom. Now when these are really hot, they're really pliable, and so they're also delicate, so you have to be careful with them. Now, as you can see, all these little bars of wire are against the wood. And that's when you take the wood that you've just taken off, some little nails that will typically come with your setup when you order your frames. Get these tiny little nails press the wood back against the frame. And I like to use a smaller hammer because this can be a little cumbersome. These nails are so small, your area to work with is small. And since these are used, I'm going to pull them out a little bit. You can pull them out completely and start over, but I'm kind of trying to use the same holes. I've always thought using a stapler would be a lot quicker and maybe a better idea, but I haven't heard of anybody doing that, maybe because it splits the wood and you want to be able to reuse it. And then you're just going to nail a few in. I like to use 3 on each frame. Nail them at a slight angle, not directly downward. It helps when you pull them back out to not split the wood. And you're just securing the wax in there. The wax has to be secured in with this. You can't just stick it in, or else when it's turned upside down, it'll fall out, especially as it gets hot. So that's one done. I'll demonstrate one more, but this is a time-consuming task. So pretending that this would be new, you would take your hive tool, wedge it in, pop the wood out, and I have a bee who's curious about this right now. Small cell crimp wax foundation. In my wedge top, divided bottom. Again, it's upside down right now. Putting it into the bottom side first. This particular one has wax kind of gunked up in there, and I sterilized it, but in order to preserve the integrity of the new foundation, I want to really get all this wax out so it doesn't break the foundation. This is also helpful if you're using used frames. They say not to use used frames because they can potentially have diseases or problems, but I've gotten some for free. And I'm going to use what's free, but I sterilize them first. Okay, so I'm going to try this again. Putting it into the bottom first. Very delicate with the wax because this is super hot. Okay, now that it's in and the wires are directly against the top bar, thin piece of wood, flip it around, and then nail it in. There's another key to keeping your foundation flat, because foundation, especially new, and if it's kind of cool, can bow. And you want it to be as straight as possible. So you can do this one frame at a time, or put all your foundation in and then do this as your final step. But I use bobby pins in these side holes. So I insert the bobby pin and then have it secure the wax. Now, depending on how bowed the sheet of foundation is, I might use one on each side, or I might use two on each side. The bobby pins aren't going to bother the bees, they'll just work around it, and that makes sure that your wax stays straight. And when you're done, put them all in, put them all together, press it as tightly as possible, and your super's ready to go.